Hi, Teresa. Welcome to my channel. How
Nice
are
to
you?
be here. Yes, I'm great.
Well, I just want to say thank you. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, I'm glad
So,
to talk to you always.
always. So, Teresa, I know we've been friends for almost what, 10 years now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, right? Almost how time flies, right? Yeah. So, okay, Teresa. So, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, I am a Latina Catholic scholar in religion. I am Peruvian American. I am fortunate that oh, I'm fortunate that I have a Master's of Divinity from Harvard University. I have my emphasis was feminist theology, and then I have a PhD in women's studies, women's studies and religion from Claremont Graduate University. But currently, I teach in the Chicano and Latino Studies Department at California State University, Los Angeles.
So I would like to explore what you just said about your identity as a Peruvian American.
Mhm.
What does that mean for you?
Well, it's an important part of my identity. It's my on my father's side. Um, Growing up, so he's from Peru, and his father was indigenous New Quechua. And I'm realizing that just growing up on that side of the family, I was influenced a lot by the cultural heritage. And then something that was important for me was in when I was in college. Well, there was two things that happened for me. So my grandparents, my abuelita and abuelito, I knew them, but they passed away when my abuelita passed away when I was in the sixth grade, and my grandfather in the ninth grade. But then once they passed away, it saddened me that I had not been able to speak with them because I didn't know Spanish. So since then, I prioritized learning Spanish. And in college, at Mount St. Mary's, it was what I did was I was interested in Peruvian women's voices, and I was looking for Peruvian women because my field was women's studies,
Hmm, hmm.
psychology, and there wasn't really research on women. And I did go to UCLA just to look in their library, and I wasn't finding things that I could study about. So I was able to get a Fulbright. I was supposed to go to Peru, but I ended up in Costa Rica studying Latin American feminism in the Seminario Biblico Latinoamericana.
Hmm.
But right now, a lot of my research, I'm interested in the Buen Vivir, social philosophy of good living,
Hmm.
Sumacae in in Quechua. But I'm looking at that through the lens of I'm interested in indigenous religiosity, more so spirituality. And
And, hmm.
yeah,
And you are currently teaching at Cal State LA?
yes.
Which classes or what classes are you teaching or
I,
you
I
teach?
primarily teach environmental justice,
Mhm.
but this semester I'm also teaching Chicanas and Latinas in the United States.
Now, I know you've been back to Peru, and I believe you took some of your students to do a research project in Peru. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, so so when I was at Loyola Marymount for a year, and they had a program
Mhm.
that took students to different parts of the world. And so I was a faculty advisor for a trip that went to um, the northern regions in Peru, Lamas, and we were within the Amazon, and the focus was to understand more about agriculture, indigenous wisdom, and then we were exposed to the Mestizo Quechua or indigenous population.
Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
so the students, we were there for 10 days, and the students were from all different disciplines, and they were interested in integrating ecology or thinking about ecology in light of their disciplines.
Now,
But yeah.
now, you and I, and in collaboration with Alan Barrera, Dr. Ezekiel, um, the cathedral, we were part of
Yeah.
this movement of reviving this 16th century devotion to the Inca Christ child. As a Peruvian American and as a Catholic scholar, tell us about how you felt being able to revive this
Mhm.
260 something year old devotion that had been lost in Peru as a Peruvian Catholic scholar.
I think it's important. It was very empowering to be able to highlight the Christ child, that there's so many different Christ childs on a global level. Um, and yet the Inca Christ child has yet to be recognized, and realizing that in that historical moment, it was a threat, or that concept of the Inca being a Christ child was a threat. And as a result, the icons or images of the Christ child were destroyed. So it's an amazing experience to bring that Christ child into the cathedral
And we're talking about the cathedral in
in
downtown
Los
LA.
Angeles.
Yes, Our Lady of the
Our
Angel.
Lady of the Angels Cathedral in Los Angeles.
So, Teresa, I would also like to explore this identity of being a Catholic scholar and
Mhm.
also a feminist scholar. Um, is there any contradictions between being a Catholic and feminist? Tell us about a little bit more about this.
I think for some people, there is a contradiction in the sense that they think of the dualisms that happen between men and women in the church.
Hmm.
And historically, yes, the church, the institutional church, not the institutional church from the fourth century, in the sense that it's a predominantly male leadership.
Hmm.
And though that wasn't the same under Jesus, in terms of his disciples
Hmm.
and Mary Magdalene and the different women, or the Good Samaritan, or the woman at the well,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's perceptions. I think that women can have a voice in the church.
And now, also,
Now, yeah.
as a Catholic scholar working in a secular institution, how is that experience? Do you bring your Catholic experience into your classroom or no?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Okay, so I feel as if sometimes I'm going to just say that my Catholic feminist perspective sometimes is not, I feel like I'm a little bit, not a threat, but I'm not in a Catholic university,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is a very interesting,
Hmm.
because the majority of my colleagues, because my master's in religion, PhD in religion, and for some reason, I'm thriving in a secular setting. But in terms of my teaching, I don't use Catholic terminology,
Hmm.
but my theoretical perspective, or my pastoral vocation, is very much Catholic in terms of the human dignity of each and every person.
Hmm.
And I think it informs the way that I relate to the students. Yeah, because I see myself as my my profession is religion.
Hmm.
My vocation is to be a teacher.
But I'm also I also teach, right, as you know. And
Mhm.
so that's something that we also have in common. We're both educators.
Yes,
And I believe that teaching is also, it's just not a career, it's also a vocation.
I agree
Right?
too.
It's also very pastoral. Maybe some may not agree with this perspective, but I believe it is so. We're the shepherds of our flock, that we try to lead them in the right way, in the right path.
Yes,
And would you agree with that or no? That it does have an
I
essence of,
completely agree
yeah,
with it.
uh-huh,
Each of my students is not a number,
exactly.
okay?
Hmm.
And my role is very much like the way that my Catholic educators, all along my education, they were helping me to discern what were my talents and gifts and the areas that I thrive. So
Hmm.
similarly in my classrooms, it's the same thing. I want all my students to be able to um, discover what are their talents and gifts, but then also recognize what are the areas that they can strengthen. Because not all of us, I've learned to, um, I've learned to be a public speaker.
Right. And you see, you bring up a good point, because when I see my students, I don't see them as a number. And also, I need to see my whole student. Like, I
Hmm.
cannot just see a part of a student. I need to see the whole person.
Hmm.
And when I say that, I mean that my kids are spiritual, they're religious, they have various identities.
Hmm.
Some of them identify as just Latinos, some identify as Chicano, some identify as Mexican American, right?
Yeah.
So we cannot just separate them, or we
Yeah.
cannot just see just a part of them and not see the whole
And
person,
that's
whole
part of
student.
very much a part of a Catholic perspective that you look at the whole person. So it's
Y-
the intellectual, the personal, the spiritual aspects of it. Now that's distinctive.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think, and we talk about safe spaces, and I believe that
Hmm.
our students should also feel safe to express their religious
Yes.
traditions in our classroom. And that's something that I try to make, regardless of their religious traditions. I try to make them feel comfortable and safe to express that reality in my classroom.
So, okay. I always tell them what my personal epistemological framework or viewpoint is.
Mhm.
Now, they know that I'm Catholic. They know that my background, I'm Peruvian American. I have my back, they know what my expertise is, but it's not in the sense to proselytize for them.
Right, of
Now,
course.
this semester, which has been very interesting in this Chicanas and Latinas in the US class, it's very interesting to me. The first time I've taught it, but I'm realizing from myself to Glorian Zaldúa to Sor Juana and other Chicanas and Latinas, religion and spirituality
Hmm.
are very much integral to the way that they're talking about feminist discourse.
Right.
So in this class particularly, I can say, you know what, in the Catholic faith, they believe this or they believe that.
Mhm.
And yet the students will go, you know what? I grew up with that. But I can do it with it. So it's more within, I can do this in an academic setting just because it's part of the curriculum, which is a really
Right.
interesting thing.
Right. No, right. Because sometimes when I do ask my students, how was your weekend? They will say, well, we went to a religious retreat over the weekend,
Mhm.
or they're going to Sunday school, or some of them are taking their catechisms to do
Yeah.
their sacraments. So I do let them have that space, that time to talk about their religious or ex experience, right?
And it's okay within your setting
Yes, of
because you're
course,
in a secular setting too.
right. But it's about getting to know them in a more higher level
Hmm.
than just looking at them as a number.
I agree.
And
Hmm.
therefore, we need to look at them as a whole, as who they are, right?
And I think that that's probably what makes me distinct too as a professor. I've always said, and people are surprised. So if there's a death in the family, someone's in the hospital,
Hmm.
that's more important than, what, getting their homework in. So they
Definitely.
need to articulate to me that for me, I guess that's the pastoral dimensions of how I think about being a mentor or a teacher.
Right. And you bring up a good point because when when Monday comes and I ask them, well, you didn't turn in the homework. What happened over the weekend? And they'll say to me, well, Mr. Tavares, we had a religious retreat,
And I didn't get it
and
done.
I didn't get it done. So, so when they say that, so I'm like, okay, they're going to a spiritual uh school, it's part of their
Yeah.
overall education, right? So,
And we want to affirm that. I
right.
feel as if that the one thing that it saddens me in a way in terms of being a Cal State LA is that I empower my students or I give them the skills to do social justice activism,
Hmm.
on campus and their local communities. And hopefully,
Right.
when they graduate, more so on a national level or whatever, in whatever field they
Mhm.
are. But I just feel as if that I wish I could, I wish they were in the church.
Right. And
That's
some of
what
them
I
are.
wish. But you know what? I feel as if that I can offer them, opportunities, and I think I will. I
Right.
ask them, like, if they're interested in getting onto the Pax Christi Mass on Sundays
Hmm.
at 4 p.m. You know what? Because they might see Catholicism. There's different ways that Catholicism is understood.
Hmm.
So a lot of the same thing with Catholic feminism is kind of like Catholicism, there's different expressions of it.
Hmm.
And I feel as if the way that I understand it is that we're a family. And not everyone in the family agrees with
Hmm.
one another, but that doesn't mean we're not family.
It doesn't mean we're not Catholic, right?
And it doesn't mean that um, I'm less or more Catholic.
Hmm. And it's different for everyone, right? Because in their Catholic journey, some may be a little bit more advanced, some may be intermediate. It all depends on where they're at in
Are
their
you saying academically? Is that what you're
or
saying?
and also in their religious or spiritual formation.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was. Yeah,
Yeah.
in their spiritual formation. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they're in their journey, we're in different levels, right? But Teresa, I do want to touch about on your research interests. I know you have
Okay.
mentioned Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, this 17th century Novohispana or Mexican nun. Tell us a little bit about how you came across Sor Juana and your interests on her.
Okay. So I found out about Sor Juana my first year at Harvard University,
Hmm.
and it was a liberation theology class.
Hmm.
And we were given options about different people to study.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked Sor Juana. And so I went to go to the library and do research on her. And then the first thing that I read was a poem, and it's that started, she studies, she teaches, and thus she serves her faith, for how could God, who gave her reason, want her ignorant? And so I was like, I was really interested in this woman because similarly, I enjoy studying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm a teacher. So by learning more about her, like she's Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say she's a feminist because of presentismo,
Mm-hmm.
but she really was grounded in her faith as a woman.
And Teresa, so Sor Juana is one of the most studied literary figures, yet I believe she's one of the most misunderstood
I agree.
for both the Leyenda Negra or the Black Legend of Sor Juana and the concept of presentismo,
Yes.
presentism. Can you tell us a little bit more on what presentismo is and also
The
about
Black
the
Legend.
Black Legend of Sor Juana?
So presentismo is problematic. It's when you impose your ideologies or viewpoints onto a figure in a different century. So an example would be when people um, personify Sor Juana as a lesbian, or they personify her, yes, as a feminist or an eco-feminist, or all these different terms.
Or as a heretic?
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. So part of the Black legend in the U.S. Cervantes scholarship, the Black legend or Leyenda Negra, has been very problematic because it has personified Sor Juana as a victim in the church, as a heretic in the church,
As a
as a
rebel.
controversial figure,
Hmm.
and it really has undermined her agency and her faith
Hmm.
as a woman in the church. So I'm glad that we're working on the project to make her, to reclaim her agency and her contribution within the Catholic Church,
Now,
especially her value by the clerical leaders in her time.
now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Alejandro Sorano Valles that coined that term. Can you tell us a little bit more on who Alejandro Sorano is, about his scholarship and your relationship with him?
So Alejandro Soriano Valles, I encountered him through you
Hmm.
probably a year and a half ago.
Hmm. Hmm. And by the way,
And
I was blown away by his research on Sor Juana and everything that he has done to recuperate the real Sor Juana.
yeah, so his scholarship has made me have to rethink my scholarship
Hmm. Hmm.
and the biases that I have, that other scholars have, and the challenge of presentismo,
Hmm.
because his scholarship is all
Yes.
rooted, it draws on archival historical evidence.
Yes.
And we have talked about the challenges of everyone is entitled to their interpretation of Sor Juana.
But they have to
But
back it up, right? With
but that's the challenge in the United States, is that people have taken liberties, and even myself,
hmm
but I see it's like you, in light of presentismo, but still, there's a challenge of like, I want Sor Juana to be relevant today, but we
Mm.
still need to keep her within her historical moment.
Right. And I know that Octavio Paz,
Is very problematic.
because he's the go-to person if you want to study or know a little bit more on Sor Juana. And also, it's the book that it is well,
Most
I believe,
read or
yeah,
most known.
most known and the one that will be assigned in a classroom to read Octavio Paz. So tell us about uh, your stay. Was it at Harvard where he
Yes.
was at?
He
And
was at my university
right,
in the same time period.
right.
So when I was there, of course, I read his book
Mm-hmm.
and his ideas were, what they, like you said, they were just considered uh, historically accurate. They were considered, like you said, it's a go-to,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the Mexican laureate. So
Right,
he's this esteemed Mexican scholar.
right. And
And
he,
yet, because of Alejandro,
mm-hmm.
you know, now I realize he had his own personal biases and viewpoints.
Right.
And all of us as scholars have our biases.
Yeah, and Octavio Paz, so and the book that we're talking about, Octavio Paz, is Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, Las Trampas
De la fe.
de la Fe. And what's the English title, Teresa?
Sor Juana, the traps of faith.
And again, it is presented as a historical novel or a historical biography of Sor Juana, but
It's
actually, it's a fictitious novel that Octavio Paz actually wrote on Sor Juana.
he portrays it as a historical analysis,
Yeah.
and it's not.
It's not. And again, and Octavio Paz, he's a product of his century. He's a, or he had a very 20th century mindset,
Of course.
very anti-clerical. Uh, yeah, so he was not a forward thinker. He was just part of his century, right? And
And
we can
yes,
yes, and we can perceive that in his writings. Yeah, so yeah, even though he's um, as you say, one of the most prominent writers of Mexico, but he is just also a product of his time. And I don't think he was a very forward thinker.
yeah. So the challenge is we need to bring Alejandro Soriano Valles'
Yes.
scholarship across the border.
Right. And this is the first book that I got from Alejandro, and the first book that I read on of Alejandro, and this just blew my mind on Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, doncella del Verbo. Yes, it was just I couldn't stop reading it. It just rewired my brain because again, I was wired to see Sor Juana
Yes.
through the lens of Octavio Paz.
And I'm glad
Yeah.
you he has challenged me
Hmm.
to rethink my scholarship on Sor Juana.
Right.
And so now I'm passionate like you to bring his voice into the United States because
Hmm.
it saddens me that a lot of Sor Juanista scholars in the US, they are fluent in
Hmm.
Spanish, and
Hmm.
yet they don't draw on his book
Right. Right.
because it doesn't support the argument that they want to make
Right.
about Sor Juana.
So, Teresa, so before I let you go, where can people or students reach out to you if they want to take
Oh,
the
okay.
class with you? Where would they go? Where can they reach you at?
Okay. I'm on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mind if they email me.
Mm-hmm.
So like it says on the, it's Theresa Yugar lower caps at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have interest in, Sor Juana or
And tell us a
Latin
little bit
American
more.
feminism.
And you do have a blog on Sor Juana. Tell us how can they go to your
Oh,
blog? Yeah.
okay. Yes. So after after reading
Mm-hmm.
Alejandro's book, I just thought, you know what, it's imperative for me to to try to break the ceiling
Mm-hmm.
in the US in terms of Sor Juana. So there's a feminism and religion blog, and I wrote the challenges and possibilities of Sor Juanista studies in the US,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So
And
actually, if you put my name
mm-hmm.
into the what is it, into the Google
Description,
search,
right? Uh-huh.
I do have um, a Wikipedia page that people can look at, but you'll also see different things that I've written.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
I do have, like, I'm the chief editor for a book, um, Valuing Lives, Healing Earth, Religion, Gender, and Life on Earth. And I have a copy of it,
Awesome.
but it's 18 chapters
Mm-hmm.
and it celebrates, um, I did this to celebrate my mentor from Claremont Graduate University, Rosemary Radford Ruther,
Mm-hmm.
who was her Catholic ecofeminist approach really influenced my doctoral research. And in the book, there was four of us, and I secured the essays by women in Latin America who are doing ecological work.
And
So,
so, Teresa, if there's a student at Cal State LA or any student that would like to take your courses, um, which department would they go to?
yes, I'm in the Chicano and Latina Studies department.
Nice. So I do see that you have an image or a painting of Our Lady of Guadalupe in your background.
Yes.
Yeah. So uh, Our Lady of
Yeah.
Guadalupe, pray for us.
Yes, pray for us.
Thank you,
And
Teresa.
Sir Juana, pray for us
And
too.
Tawana, pray for us. Thank you, Teresa.
You're
That was
so welcome, Juan.
fun. Thank you.
Okay, bye.